What's popping? What's popping? How's everybody doing? Welcome back to another episode of Life According to Rick. Now, today's a very special episode. I hope that everybody had an amazing week. I hope that everybody's good, and I hope that y'all ready for this ride because today we are celebrating. We are reflecting 44 spins around the block. It is your boy's birthday. Wow, 44 years. Like I sit here and I'm talking to y'all right now and I'm like, where did the time go? It's kind of surreal for me. You know, if you would have told me 20 years ago, like, yo, Rick, you gonna be married, raising a toddler, doing a podcast, I'd have been like, yeah, all right. But I'm still coming down from that high from that Miami trip. Wow. What an amazing time. Like I have to say that that was the best 48 hours that I I experienced, to be honest. It was amazing. But before we like really dig deep into this trip, I need y'all to stop for a second, right? I want you to close your eyes and like clear your thoughts because I'm gonna paint a picture for y'all. I'm gonna tell y'all like a story, you know what I mean, of how this trip went down. Because I really want y'all to envision it, like to the detail, you know what I mean, like so that way you guys can understand like the full story of the trip to Miami. Like it was such a vibe. But last Thursday, right, I had to work, and obviously, I worked till like I want to say 3 o'clock, right? And I was like, boom, I'm gonna go to the airport early. You know what I'm saying? My flight didn't really have to leave till like I want to say almost seven something, right? Whatever. Fast forward, my wife drops me off at the airport. I go through TSA, no problems. It was like no lines. I literally took me like maybe 5 minutes to get through TSA. So as soon as I pass TSA, I get an alert. Like my flight was delayed. I'm like, bro, I bet. It wasn't like no big deal. It wasn't like a super crazy delay. There was some weather issues um up here before I was leaving, but I guess the real issue was down in Fort Lauderdale because I flew into Fort Lauderdale and they only had like one runway and it was like this whole thing, right? So back. They started boarding around 7:30. We take off. Yo, I zonked out. I was like, you know what? I need all the sleep that I can get because I know when I touch down, it's lit. I was locked in. I was ready for this trip. So boom, my brother picks me up. We go to his crib. By the time we get there, it was like almost midnight when I landed. And then by the time I got my bag and stuff like that, whatever, we get to his crib, we settle in. I had to wake up mad early because even though I was, I came down on vacation. Everybody's still working. Everybody's still locked in, doing their regular stuff, right? So the grind don't stop. So my brother was like, "Yo, you drop me off at work. You take my car. You do what you got to do. You go handle your business. Don't worry about it. You just scoop me up after work, and then we do what we got to do because we were going to the baseball classic game in the afternoon. So bad. We woke up like mind you, it was like 4:45 in the morning. I dropped him off, and then I drove to South Beach. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna maximize my day. So I went to the beach. Beautiful. Like I kid you not, it was so beautiful. It was like a nice breeze. It wasn't muggy. You know what I'm saying? If you've been down to Miami, it gets real nasty outside. It gets real muggy and hot and it's very intolerable. But I was comfortable. And I also took some dry fit clothes. I was like, nah, I'm not gonna do it to myself. I'm gonna be chilling. So I went to the beach. I walked down Ocean Drive. And mind you, like Ocean Drive at like 6 a.m., it's a different vibe because it's a ghost town. There's nobody outside like that. But you know, the local people, they outside and they're rollerblading and you know, they're on the beach working out and they're going for their walks or doing their runs. So it was pretty dope to just see the locals, you know, doing their normal routine that early in the morning. I walked over to the beach. I got on the ocean by the on the sand, and I'm by the ocean, and I'm just watching the sunrise, and it was like the most serene thing. Like it was so beautiful. Like the clouds look like super animated. Like compared to the clouds out here, like it's so dead, so dull, like so morbid. I kid you not. That's what it looks like. But down there, it was just like these fluffy clouds, and the sun was rising, and it was trying to peek through the clouds, and like you had to be there to see it. It was super beautiful, and then the water was just like this blue color, and the waves crashing. Like I literally stopped for a second, and I was just soaking it all in, and it was like this peace for that moment. You know what I mean? It was like I needed that. You know what I'm saying? So I really enjoyed, you know, going to the beach and just, you know, kind of just soaking that all in. So after the beach, I decided that I was gonna go visit my cousin's mausoleum. He had passed away like 15 years ago, this July, and I hadn't gone to visit his site since, you know, he passed away when I had to go down for like the wake and the services. And I actually didn't get to go to the service because the day of the services I had to fly back to Mass. And this is all 15 years ago. So like just imagine all the times that I have been to Miami and everything, you know, after all of that happened, I never got to go visit his site. So I decided, you know, it was time for me to go visit him and pay my respects and, you know, kind of share that moment with him there, you know what I mean? And it was very emotional for me because, you know, he was like my little brother. And, you know what I'm saying? He was taken too soon. But it was a good time, you know, being able to go and see him, like go see the site, you know, where he was laying at. So then after visiting my little cousin, I had to go stop at my brother's job, my other brother, and had to go see him real quick. And you know, we chopped it up for a little bit. You know, I couldn't take up too much of his time. Like I said, everybody was grinding, working, doing their normal routine. I'm just a visitor. You know what I mean? So I made sure that I went to him, went to go check him real quick. We chopped it up, and then at that point, it was already like almost 10 something in the morning. Mind you, it's still early. I felt like I had done mad stuff already in the day. I was like, yo, I'm gonna go get something to eat. And you know, when you in Miami, you gotta get a Cuban sandwich. I was like, that was the first thing I said. I was like, yo, I need to get me a Cuban sandwich while I'm down here in Miami. So I went to one of like the little local bakeries called Vicky's Bakery, and got me a Cuban sandwich, and I got me some pan de bonos, these little Colombian breads that my favorite till this day. And so got these little pastries, fire. And so I ate, and at this point, like my phone started to die. And I was like, yo, I need to get back to my brother's crib because I need to charge my phone. I didn't have like a car charger on me. So I'm driving back to his crib, and then my phone died. Luckily, I have like photographic memory. So like I literally remembered the details of how to get to his house, right? So boom, I get to his crib. I plug my phone to charge, right? Yo, it was not charging. Somehow it was saying that there was moisture in the phone and I couldn't put it to charge. But luckily, my watch, I can make calls. So I called my brother up. I was like, yo, bro, like my phone is dead, son. Like, I, it's not charging right now. He was like, yo, put it in some rice. So I'm in his kitchen trying to find like a bowl, and I put some rice in it, and I put my phone in there so that way, it could like, soak up the water or whatever the moisture that was, not letting it charge. So it wasn't working, or maybe I was just being too impatient. And so I was like, I bet I'm not gonna stress out because, you know, I didn't I wanted to enjoy my day. I was having a great day, and I didn't want to let that, ruin the trip for me, right? Or at least the day. Boom, fast forward. I, I, I took advantage that I was already there at the house. So I showered, I got ready for the game. And then it clicked in my head. I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll stop like at Dollar Tree or something and buy a car charger. So I go into Dollar Tree. I buy this, little car charger, whatever. I plugged it in and it started to like charge. So I'm like, I bet. Let me leave it alone. Let it do its thing. I'm pulling out of freaking Dollar Tree, right? And I get pulled over. I'm like, yo, how does this happen? Like, I haven't even been here 24 hours and I got pulled over. According to the cop, I was impeding traffic. I said, officer, I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm like, I'm visiting. This is my brother's car. And what he meant by impeding traffic is, I guess I was sticking out. The front of the car was sticking out too much onto the street. So yeah, but he let me get off with a warning, and I was like, "Yo, good looking out, my boy. I won't do it again. I won't be here for too long." So at this point now, I'm heading back to Miami because my brother lives in Broward, and I'm gonna go drive to pick him up. And if y'all ever been to Miami or if you ever lived down there, y'all know how the traffic is. So once I got closer to the city, like forget about it. Like the traffic got a little nuts. So I ended up grabbing my brother, and then we drove to our childhood friend Nate's job, who worked by the stadium actually. So it was pretty dope because we actually parked at his job. But he works for like this charter boating company. So we was there by the Miami River, and we just vibing, just chopping it up. It was a good time. And he was like, "Yo, let's go on the boat real quick before the game." So mind you, we got on the boat and we're just cruising like on the Miami River, and we having a little sippy sip before the game. And honestly, at that point, I was on the boat and I was feeling good. And I was like, yo, like I literally felt like Anthony Bourdain, R.I.P. Anthony Bourdain. If you ever watched his show when he was alive, he had a show called The Layover. And I was just soaking it all in. The streets, the smells, the vibe, the people. everything moving around me. But I had this moment to pause and just take it all in. And that right there just set the tone for the day. Being out on the water, the city skyline around us, music playing, everyone laughing. It felt like the perfect pregame moment. One of those experiences where you just sit back and think, man, life is good right now. Then it was time to head to the stadium, and that's when that World Baseball Classic energy took over. We was lit. So we finally walking over to the stadium. Everybody's getting ready for the game. Like the vibe was just on point. Everybody was outside. You seen all the Dominican flags, everybody repping, and it 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 was it was kind of surreal because we pulled up to the stadium and we hadn't even like walked in to the stadium, and people just with con la tambora, la guira, una bulla, like it was crazy. It was just super loud, but it felt like home. You know what I mean? Like the ambiance was popping, super popping. It was like a party. They had a stage with like music going, and yo, like if you have not gone to a World Baseball Classic game in your life, I highly recommend it. Like the next one is in 2030, and I'm already planning for it because by that point, Harlem's gonna be 7. He'll be around 7 years old, so he'll be a little bit bigger, and definitely want to take him to a game. So I'm definitely planning for that. And so we get in there, and it was just amazing. And I know I've said amazing like probably like 1,000 times in this episode alone, but that's the best way to describe it. It was just like amazing. Being there in that moment, surrounded by all that energy, all that pride, it made me reflect on something. Growing up, being half Dominican and half Honduran, but most of my life I was around my Dominican side. My grandmother raised me. My Dominican family was always around, and that was the culture that I embraced, that I grew up on. And if I'm honest with y'all, there were times, growing up, I felt like I had something to prove, because I wasn't a purebred. I wasn't 100% Dominican. So I had to like show people that I belonged. But standing in the stadium, feeling all that energy, hearing the music, seeing everybody celebrating our culture together, something clicked for me. At 44, I realized something. I don't have to prove anything to anyone. My roots are my roots. My story is my story. And I carry both sides of my heritage with pride. Para mí, el clásico fue una experiencia tan hermosa. Hacer parte de un evento tan heavy y representar mi cultura dominicana. La energía que se sintió en ese parque fue una cosa increíble. Y yo me siento bien orgulloso de tener mis raíces dominicanas. Es una cosa bien inexplicable. Now, for those of y'all that were just like, what? What did he just say? I'm going to just put it to y'all simple and clear because I had to share that in Spanish because, you know, it was something that when I was there, I just, like, I felt that Dominican culture and roots that was just there at that stadium. It was something unexplainable. And for me, it was like a beautiful experience just seeing my people all together, enjoying baseball. And it's not just baseball because that was the reason why we were there, right? Was for the baseball game, but it was more for the culture, you know, everybody getting together and just one big party, like vibing, you know, excited. You're high fiving and enjoying this time with strangers you don't even know that you may not even see again in your life, right? But for that moment, everybody was together. It was just like one big party, and it's those moments like that that remind you where you come from and why that pride lives inside you. So after the game, we step out into the street and the energy was still going. DR had won the game. They had beat Nicaragua 12-3. So the dembo was blasting from people's cars, people celebrating, laughing, talking to strangers like we've known each other forever. Everyone united in that one moment with one thing in common, our Dominican roots. Porque todo el mundo en coro, en chelcha, una gozadera. That's all I gotta say. Then we ended up going to the chimney truck. We grabbed some picadera, soaking the vibes. That was like another party because all the cars with the big speakers, it was like an after party. You think about it, and then I remember sitting there thinking, man, from watching the sunrise on South Beach to being on the boat to this moment right here after the game. This really felt like my own episode of The Layover. Experiencing the city, living in the moment, and just letting the day unfold. We didn't get much sleep that night, but Saturday morning came quick because it was time to go watch my nephews play baseball. They had a doubleheader, so we were out there early cheering them on. And watching them play reminded me of when we were kids, being outside all day, playing ball, just enjoying the moment. Those are those little things you realize are actually the big things in life. So after the games, we had a little time to relax before heading to the cousins get together. And man, that was exactly what I needed. All the cousins together, everyone laughing, talking, sharing stories. The kids were running around, like we used to when we were younger. And it was kind of like we never skipped a beat. And like I said, it had been 5 years since I had seen everybody. So it was just one of those moments where you look around and you realize that, you know, this is what life is really about, family, connection, and those memories that will stay with you forever. By the time we left the get together and headed back to my brother's house, something funny happened. The time jumped forward an hour. Daylight savings. Got him. So before I even knew it, it was time to grab my things, get ready, and head to the airport. 48 hours in Miami, and it felt like a dream. But this trip reminded me of something important. Life moves fast. One minute you're watching the sunrise on South Beach, listening to the waves crash. The next minute you're boarding a flight back home. And every year, every spin around the block teaches you something new about yourself. For me, turning 44 reminded me to slow down, to appreciate the people around me, embrace my roots and where I come from. And most importantly, be present in the moment. Because those moments, the ones with family, culture, laughter, and connection, those are the ones that really matter. Those are the ones that stay with you. So here's to 44 spins around the block and many more to come. I appreciate each and every one of y'all that takes the time to listen and rock with your boy every week. It really means a lot. And who knows? Next week we might be talking about a whole different adventure. We got Vegas coming up, so that's gonna be one to tune in for. So until next time, I love y'all. Let's have a great and amazing week. And this has been Life According to Rick.